What's going on, everyone? My name is John with Mortar, and I'm an economist. Today we're talking ETF risks. A lot of people hear that ETFs are simple, diversified, and beginner friendly, and that part is true. But what gets missed is this: simple doesn't mean risk-free, and diversified doesn't always truly mean diversified. So if you watched my earlier ETF video and came away thinking, okay, I get it, ETFs are basically baskets of investments, this is the next step. Because before you buy one or before you keep buying more of them, you need to understand what can still go wrong. And the goal here isn't to scare you away from ETFs. I own the idea of broad, low-cost investing in principle. The goal is to help you think better, because the better your framework is, the fewer unforced errors you make. Let's break down the biggest ETF risks beginners ignore, starting with the one that fools the most people. An ETF, or exchange traded fund, is a fund that holds a group of investments and trades on the stock market like a stock. In plain English, it lets you buy many holdings at once instead of picking every investment one by one. That sounds safe, and sometimes it is safer than buying a single stock, but the first risk is concentration. Concentration risk means too much of your money depends on too few holdings, one sector, one country, or one theme. In plain English, your basket may look big, but a small part of it may be doing most of the driving. This happens more than people realize. You might buy an ETF with hundreds of holdings, but if the top few positions make up a big chunk of the fund, your results can still depend heavily on just a handful of companies. So even though the fund looks diversified on paper, in practice it can still move a lot based on a few names. And concentration is not only about individual companies, it can also show up by sector. For example, an ETF can be labeled broad or growth-oriented, but still be heavily tilted toward technology. If that sector gets hit, your diversified fund may fall harder than you expected. This is why you should always check the top holdings and the sector weights before buying. Don't just read the fund name, read what's actually inside the fund. The second risk is overlap, and this one catches a lot of beginners. Overlap means two or more ETFs own many of the same underlying investments. In plain English, you think you bought variety, but you may have just bought the same thing in different packaging. This happens when investors buy multiple popular ETFs that all hold many of the same large companies. They feel diversified because they own 3 or 4 funds, but their portfolio may still be dominated by the same core names again and again. So the number of ETFs you own is not the same as true diversification. More funds does not automatically mean less risk. Sometimes it just means more complexity, more confusion, and repeated exposure to the same holdings. The third risk is sector and theme risk. A sector is part of the economy, like technology, healthcare, energy, or financials. A thematic ETF is a fund built around a trend or story, like artificial intelligence, clean energy, robotics, or cybersecurity. The fourth risk is valuation risk, and this one matters even with great ETFs. Valuation means the price you pay relative to what the underlying businesses are worth. In plain language, even a good investment can become a bad buy if you pay too much for it. A lot of people think ETFs remove the need to think about price. They don't. An ETF can hold excellent companies and still be risky if those holdings are priced too aggressively. This matters because returns are not just driven by what you buy. They're also driven by the price you pay when you buy it. So if investors pile into the same fund at stretched valuations, future returns can disappoint even if the long-term story remains decent. Fifth is liquidity risk. Liquidity means how easily you can buy or sell something without causing a big price move. In plain English, liquid assets are easier to trade smoothly. Many large ETFs are very liquid, but not every ETF is. Some niche ETFs trade with lower volume, wider bid-ask spreads, and less efficient pricing. This means investors can quietly lose money on the spread between buying price and selling price, especially in more specialized funds. And it gets even more important when the underlying holdings themselves are less liquid. So even if the ETFs trade on the market all day, the assets inside may not be as easy to price or trade smoothly during stress. Another risk is tracking error and structure risk. Tracking error means how closely an ETF follows the performance of the index or strategy it's supposed to track. In plain English, the ETF and the benchmark are supposed to move similarly, but sometimes they don't. Why would this happen? Expenses, rebalancing, market friction, sampling methods, derivatives, and fund structure can all create small gaps. Usually, those gaps are not dramatic in plain vanilla index ETFs, but the more specialized or complex the ETF, the more important this becomes. This is why I would tell beginners to keep it simple. The more layers of complexity you add, the more ways there are for your expectations and actual results to separate. The seventh risk is investor behavior, which might actually be the biggest one of all. A lot of people buy ETFs thinking the product itself will protect them from bad decisions, but the product doesn't fix poor behavior. If you chase performance, panic sell, jump between hot sectors, and buy based on social media hype, the ETF wrapper will not save you. That's why a boring, disciplined strategy often beats a clever but emotional one. Good investing is usually less about finding the most exciting fund and more about building a process you can stick with. So, how do you review an ETF before buying it? Well, here's a framework you can use. First, check what the ETF actually holds. Look at the top holdings, sector weights, and country exposure. Second, ask whether you already own those same companies somewhere else. That's how you catch overlap. Third, look at the expense ratio. An expense ratio is the annual fee charged by the fund expressed as a percentage of your investment. In plain English, it's the cost of owning the fund each year. Fourth, look at liquidity. Pay attention to trading volume and bid-ask spread, especially if the ETF is niche. Fifth, ask whether you understand the strategy well enough to hold it through a bad year. If you don't understand it, you probably should not own it. And finally, make sure the ETF fits your actual portfolio goal. Income, broad diversification, long-term growth, international exposure, inflation protection, or a tactical theme are all different jobs. Do not hire the wrong tool for the job. So the big takeaway is this: ETFs can be excellent tools, but they are still tools. A diversified wrapper doesn't eliminate concentration. A popular ticker doesn't eliminate valuation risk, and owning multiple funds doesn't guarantee true diversification. The investors who do best are usually not the ones buying the most exciting ETFs. They are the ones who understand what they own, why they own it, and what risks come with it. Now, if this video helped you, subscribe to Valiant Mortar, because I'm building this channel around clear, practical frameworks for investing, personal finance, financial freedom, and long-term wealth building. This has been John with Valiant Mortar, signing off.